Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's start AS level paper 1 multiple choice question of May-June 2025 variance 14. We have done variance 11, 12 and 13 in the previous classes. Let's talk about variance 14 today. Let's move on to the question number 1. The diagram shows the logarithm of the first 13 ionization energy of an element. Which statement is correct? Now examiner is saying that proton is lost for each successive ionization energy. That means proton is absolutely incorrect because in the ionization process, electron needs to be removed, which means option A is incorrect. The element is aluminum. I've told you in the class the total number of electrons removed from the valence shell indicate the group number of that particular element. So this is the first electron, second, third, and fourth, which means these first 4 electrons are removed from the valence shell, which means element belongs to group 14 of the periodic table. And since aluminum is found in group 13, which means option B is also incorrect. Now the next is the element is silicon. Silicon, we know that it is found in group 14 of the periodic table. All right. And also silicon has an atomic number of 14, which means it has total 14 electrons. Now look, 4 valence electrons are removed from the outermost shell, which means element belongs to group 14, silicon belongs to group 14, and therefore C is going to be the right answer. And how many electrons are removed? 13 electrons are removed because examiner has given us 13 ionization energy in this graph. So out of 14 electrons, 13 electrons have been removed from this element. All right. The element has only one outer electron, not possible because 4 valence electrons are present in the valence shell. Okay. Question number 2. So I believe D is also incorrect. What is the empirical formula of butanic acid? First of all, let's talk about the molecular formula of butanic acid. So this is butanic acid, CH3, CH2, CH2, CWH. We have 4 carbon atom in this formula. 3 plus 2, 5, plus 2, 7, plus 1, 8 hydrogen atom and 2 oxygen atom. So when we half it, when half of the molecular formula is going to be the empirical formula, so it's going to be C2H4O, and that's your answer. So C2H4O is basically A. So A is going to be the right answer. Okay. Next, in which pair is the bond angle of the first species smaller than the smallest bond angle in the second species? So methane has 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair. It's going to be 4. Let's draw 4 lines. First line represent S, remaining line represent P. So hybridization of this molecule is sp3. So whenever we have 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair, angle is always 109.5 degree. SF6, 6 single bond and a 0 lone pair. So total is going to be 6. Hybridization is going to be sp3d2. And angle is going to be 90 degree. Water has 2 single bond and a 2 lone pair. So total is going to be 4. Hybridization again is going to be sp3. And angle is going to be 104.5 degree. Then we have HCO plus, 3 single bond and a lone pair. Total is going to be 4. Hybridization is going to be sp3. And angle is going to be 107 degree. Let's talk about ammonia. It has 3 single bond and a 1 lone pair. Total is going to be 4. 4 lines draw karoge to hybridization is going to be sp3 and the angle is going to be 107 degree again. And ammonia mines has 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair. Again, hybridization is sp3 and angle is 109.5 degree. So that's the shortcut technique I've discussed with you in the class. But ये याद रखना है तुम लोगों ने कि ये सारी की सारी examples I have discussed with you in the class. You have all the information regarding these molecules and ions. So methane has an angle of 109.5 degree. SF6 has an angle of 90 degree. Carbon dioxide is 180 degree. BF3 is 120 degree. Water is 104.5. H2O plus is 107. Ammonia mine is 109 degree and ammonia is 107 degree. So first species is smaller. So first species is smaller is here. Then the smallest bond angle in the second species. So smallest bond angle in the second species is this. I'm in 107. So I believe C is going to be the right answer. Okay. Okay. I think that's the answer. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 4. Two glass vessels M and N are connected by a closed valve. M contain helium at 20 degrees Celsius. That is going to be your T1. And a pressure of this, which is going to be P1. N has been evacuated and has 3 times the volume of M. So if N has V volume, M so N is basically 3V and M is basically V. And both the vessels are interconnected with a valve. When the valve is open and the temperature of the whole apparatus is raised to 100 degrees Celsius, that is going to be a T2. What is the final pressure? That is going to be P2. So most likely, let me tell you one thing, that I'm going to apply PV equals to nRT here. By the way, number of moles and universal gas constant for both the experiment is same, will remain same. That is at 20 degrees Celsius and at 100 degrees Celsius, the number of moles and the universal gas constant will remain same. So the equation is going to be PV upon T. Okay. Now we have two different situations. So I'm going to apply P1V1 upon T1 equals to NR. When we apply final condition, that is at 100 degrees Celsius, the formula is going to be P2V2 upon T2 equals to NR. Since left hand side is equals, which means right hand side is also equal. So it's going to be P1 upon T1 equals to P2 upon V2 upon T2, right? So P1 is given, which is 1 into 10 to the power 5. V1, let's suppose, is X. Okay. Over T1. T1 is basically 20 degrees Celsius. When you add 273, it's going to be 293. Equals to P2, we need to find out, into V2. V2 is basically X plus 3X. Why X plus 3X? Because if ये वॉल्यूम V था और ये 3V था, तो मैं इसको रिमूव करोगे तो टोटल वॉल्यूम इज गोइंग टू बी 3V plus V, जिसको मैं 3X plus V 3X plus X से रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूं. ओके, सो इट डजंट मेक एनी डिफरेंस. divided by 100 degrees Celsius. 100 plus 273 is 373. Okay. So in order to calculate the P2, it's 1 into 10 to the power 5 into 373 divided by 293 into 4. Because this x and this x will cancel out with each other, okay? So it's going to be 4x. 4x and x cancel out with each other, so we'll get 4. I hope it makes sense to you. So the P2 from here is going to be how much? 3.18 into 10 to the power 4 Pascal. So right answer is going to be an A. All right. Next, solid sulfur consists of molecules made up of 8 atoms covalently bonded together. When sulfur molecules covalently bonded together with 8 atoms, its formula is going to be S8. Okay. The bonding in sulfur dioxide is SO2, which means one sulfur dioxide has 2 sulfur oxygen bond. Enthalpy change of combustion of sulfur is already given. Energy required to break 1 mole of sulfur into gaseous atom is given. That's atomization. And bond energy of oxygen is value given. We need to find out the value of SO bond energy. Okay. So again, it's a very complicated question. Let's talk about the combustion of sulfur. Sulfur is S8 reacting with oxygen and converting into sulfur dioxide. We have 8 sulfur, so I'm going to write 8 here. We have 16 oxygen, so I'm going to write 8 here also. This value is already given, which is minus 2376. Okay. Is that the case? Yeah. Okay. So formula is delta HR equals to reactant minus product. Delta HR is basically 2376 equals to reactants. Now in reactants we have sulfur, and the value of sulfur is already given. So sulfur is basically S8. It is found in solids. So first of all, let me introduce atomization. So it will turn to 1 mole of gaseous sulfur atom, and its energy is 2232, guys. So its atomization ki value is given, which is 2232 plus oxygen. Oxygen has a bond energy of 496. Since we have 8 moles, so multiply by 8. 496 into 8 is going to be 3968. Minus reactant. Reactant is sulfur dioxide. So one sulfur dioxide has 2 SO bond, 1 molecule. So when we have 8 molecule, so total bonds would be 16. So we need to find out the value of SO bond energy. So it's going to be 16x. So the value of x from here is going to be, let me calculate, 536 kilojoules per mole, and therefore D is going to be the right answer. Okay. I hope it makes sense to you. By the way, these two questions comes in June 2013 and November 2013. Okay. So we have done these two questions in the topical past paper solution also. Question number 6. In this question, the average oxidation state of sulfur in S2O3 and sulfur S2O4 2- should be used. In this reaction, does the underlying element have the largest increase in oxidation state? So examiner is looking for the largest increase in oxidation state, which means examiner is looking for the oxidation part, not the reduction part. And we need to consider the underlying elements, all right? So in this ion, let's find out the oxidation state of chromium. That's a very lengthy question. So chromium, let's suppose, is X. Oxygen has -2 charge into 4 equals to -3. So the oxidation state is going to be X equals to -8 plus 8 plus 8 and -3 and plus 5, I believe, right? The oxidation state of CrO4 2- is basically X minus 2 into 4 equals to -2. So the oxidation state is going to be, what is the 8 minus 8 plus 8 plus 8 and -2 is +6. Okay. So here is +6 and here is +3. So this is going to be the decrease in oxidation state, which is why we need to consider, we don't need to consider this change because examiner is looking for the increase in oxidation state. So +5 to +4 is basically increase in oxidation state is going to be +1. Remember that, okay? So +1 is the increase in oxidation state from here to here, +1. On the other hand, let's talk about B. NO2, nitrogen is X, oxygen is -2 into 2, because we have 2 oxygen, molecule is neutral, equals to 0, then X equals to +4. In HNO3, nitrogen is X, hydrogen is +1, oxygen is -2, into 3, because we have 3 oxygen atom, equals to 0, then the oxidation state is basically +5. HNO2, nitrogen is X, hydrogen is +1, oxygen is -2, into 2 equals to 0 because molecule is neutral. So oxidation state is going to be +3. So this is +4, this is +5, and this is +3. Again, I'm going to check only increase in oxidation state. This one from +4 to +5. That means only change increases like +1. So change in oxidation state is going to be +1. Let's talk about C. S2O3 2-. So let's suppose sulfur is 2X, oxygen is -2 into 3, whole charge equals to -2. Then the oxidation state of sulfur is going to be -6 plus 4 plus 2, I believe. Okay. -6 equals to +6 plus 6 and -2 plus 4 divided by 2 plus 2. Okay. And then we have sulfur dioxide. So sulfur is X, oxygen is -2, multiply by 2 equals to 0. Then the oxidation state of sulfur is +4. So here we have +2. Here we have +4, and here we have 0. So I'm looking for the increase in oxidation state. So increase in oxidation state is basically what? +2. Okay. Last but not the least, option D, S2O4 2-. So sulfur is 2X, oxygen is -2 into 4, whole charge equals to -2. Then the oxidation state of sulfur in this ion would be +6 plus 3. Then S2O3 2-, 2X -6 equals to 0. Oh, -6 was right, but let me show you the steps. -2 into 3 equals to -2. and the oxidation state of sulfur in this is going to be +4 +2. And then we have HSO3 negative, sulfur is X, hydrogen is +1, oxygen is -2 into 3, whole charge equals to -1. So it's going to be -6 +1 -5 +4 +4, right? Then +1 -6 equals to -1, then X -5 equals to -1, then X equals to +4. Okay, +4. I was right. So here we have an oxidation state of +3. Here we have an oxidation state of +2. And here we have an oxidation state of +4. So I'm looking for the increase in oxidation state. So this is going to be the increase in oxidation state, and +3 to +4 means the increase in oxidation state is +1. So the highest or the biggest increase in oxidation state is going to be exist in option C, and therefore C is going to be the right answer. That's a very long question. Question number 7. Methanol is made industrially from carbon monoxide and hydrogen in the equilibrium reaction shown. Well, this equilibrium reaction has enthalpy change of value is negative, which means forward reaction is exothermic. Remember, if forward reaction is exothermic, reverse reaction needs to be endothermic, okay? So forward reaction is exothermic. Which statement about this equilibrium is correct? Kp for the process. In order to write the Kp expression, it should be partial pressure of product over partial pressure of reactant. Now reactant has carbon monoxide and hydrogen. So partial pressure of carbon monoxide and partial pressure of hydrogen. Since hydrogen has 2 mole, so that mole has to be in the power, okay? So this is correct, but this is not correct because examiner hasn't mentioned the power, which means option A is incorrect. Let me remind you one more thing. अभी याद आया मुझे. आपने देखा होगा यहाँ पर number of moles है ना? So whenever we talk about the oxidation state, we don't need to consider these moles, okay? ये याद रखना आप लोग. सही है? Which is why I didn't consider the coefficient moles given in the equation. We don't need to consider such moles, okay? To get the oxidation state, you don't need to consider those. Anyway, let's option B. An increase in pressure increases the equilibrium yield of methanol. For that, we need to take out the number of moles of reactant. So we have 3 moles on the reactant side. We have 1 mole on the product side. So when we increase the pressure, equilibrium favors towards right-hand side because of the less number of moles. And so the yield of methanol increases, which means B is going to be the correct option. Let's talk about C. An increase in temperature increases the yield. If the forward reaction is exothermic and you increase the temperature, obviously equilibrium favors towards left-hand side. In that case, yield of methanol decreases. The addition of effective catalyst increases the equilibrium yield. Well, I've told you in the class, whenever we use catalyst, it has nothing to do with the equilibrium yield. It increases only forward and backward reaction, all right? So it affects only the rate of reaction, not the equilibrium yield. So obviously this 2 options are also incorrect. The distribution of molecular energies in an ideal gas can be represented in a Boltzmann distribution, which change in conditions leads to a larger value of the number of molecules that have the most probable energy. See, most probable energy, all right? An examiner is looking for the larger number of molecules. So when temperature, the number of molecules with the most probable energy has nothing to do with the pressure. It always depend on the temperature, all right? So option A is incorrect. Well, when you increase the temperature, okay, let me show you the graph which we have discussed in class, okay? This is number of molecules. This is kinetic energy or just energy. So that's the normal distribution curve. Okay. That's at temperature T. That is at 25 degrees Celsius, let's suppose. Okay. So when we increase the temperature, and that's the most probable energy, guys. Okay. So when we increase the temperature, this curve flattens and shifts maximum towards right hand side. Has to be like this. That is at high temperature. But check, the most probable energy at high temperature decreases, right? So examiner is looking for the large value of the number of molecules. In this case, the number of molecules would be lower. So in order to get the large number, I have to decrease the temperature. When I'll decrease the temperature, the curve maximum shifts towards left hand side, and it has to be like this. Okay, so that's the most probable energy. Low temperature. On the basis of that, I believe B is going to be the right answer. Okay, and that's what we have discussed in the class. अगर आपको याद हो तो, ठीक है? Okay. Question number 9. Which graph represents the number of unpaired electrons in an atom of 6 elements? Unpaired electrons. So for unpaired electrons, I'll go with the spin configuration, क्योंकि मैंने क्लास में बताया था कि जब भी तुम्हें paired unpaired electrons determine करने होंगे तुम हमेशा spin configuration करोगे. Okay, so this is atomic number 13. My bad. Atomic number 13 is basically aluminum. So short form of electronic configuration, neon is 10. This is 3s2. And this is 3p1. Then we have 14. 14 has an atomic number of silicon. Let's write the short form of electronic configuration. So neon has 10 electrons, 3s2. And then we have 3p2. Then we have 15. 15 has an atomic number of phosphorus. So in place of 10 electrons, I will write neon, 3s2, and then 3p3. So basically we have 1 electron here, we have 2, and then we have 3. So number of electrons increases, 2 and 3. All right. Let's talk about 16, 17, and 18 also. Let me change the color. Sulfur has an atomic number of 16. Write the short form of electronic configuration. So 3s contain 2 and 3p contain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then chlorine has an atomic number of 17. Three s contain 2. And 3p contain 3p contain 4 and then 3p5. And argon has an atomic number of 18. It's neon, 3s2, and then 3p6. See, from atomic number 13 to 15, number of unpaired electrons increases. That's the trend. And from 16 to 18, number of unpaired electrons decreases. So यहाँ 2 थे, यहाँ 1 था, यहाँ 0. On the basis of that, I'm 100% sure that D is going to be the right answer. Okay. Okay, next. "69 grams sample of nitrogen dioxide is placed in a reaction vessel," which means I can get the moles of nitrogen dioxide. So 69 is divided by 46 because 46 is the MR of nitrogen dioxide. So 69 divided by 46 is basically 1.5 mole. So these are the initial moles of nitrogen dioxide which were placed in the reaction vessel. The initial pressure of nitrogen dioxide is P. An effective catalyst is then added, and the nitrogen dioxide begins to decompose into its elements. Okay. So let me write the equation here. Nitrogen dioxide is converting into nitrogen and oxygen. Obviously, I have to balance the equation. It has to be like this, okay? And obviously, this reaction is going to be an equilibrium reaction because ये दोनों आपस में reaction करके वापस ये बनाएंगे, okay? So this reaction is going to be an equilibrium reaction. After 10 minutes, the total pressure is 1.1 P. So that's a very crucial point. Initially, the pressure was P, and the total pressure is 1.1 P. Okay. Okay. So initial amount is 1.5. It is 0. It is 0. Okay. Now let's suppose at equilibrium, because there is no equilibrium amount is given. So let's suppose at equilibrium it is X, and because of 1:2 का ratio, it has to be 2X. Okay. और मैंने आपको क्लास में बताया था कि जब नंबर ऑफ मोल्स इक्वेशन के सेम हो तो आप रिएक्टेड मोल्स भी फिर 2x ही लोगे. सही है. सो द मोल्स इज गोइंग टू बी 1.5 minus 2x. मैंने x क्यों नहीं लिया क्योंकि इन दोनों में रेशियो 2:1 है. मैंने 2x क्यों लिया क्योंकि दोनों का मोलर रेशियो सेम है. तो मैंने क्लास में ये न्यूमेरिकल कराया, कॉन्सेप्ट दिया है कि व्हेनेवर यू हैव सेम नंबर ऑफ मोल्स इन द इक्वेशन तो रिएक्टेड मोल्स आप x के बजाय 2x लेंगे. अगर ये इनिशियली 1.5 था और इसमें से 2x रिएक्ट हो गए तो बच कितने जाएंगे. दैट्स व्हाट वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट एट इक्विलिब्रियम. ओके. So from here I can find the total moles. That's 1.5 minus 2x plus x plus 2x. So this plus 2x and minus 2x cancel out with each other. So the total moles would be 1.5 plus x. Okay. So total pressure would be how much? Initially it was P. Okay. It was P. So let me wait. That's the case. I'm stuck at here. So initially it was 1P. Okay. And आप नोट करो अगर ये 1P और या 1.1P है तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि सिर्फ 0.1P जो है वो ऐड हुआ है, which is why total is going to be 1.1P. I hope it makes sense to you. So अगर initially 1P था और 0.1P ऐड हुआ तो total is going to be 1.1P. Okay. So that is the total pressure and that is the total number of moles. Let's equate them. Let me change the color of this. My goodness, that's it. Total moles equals to total pressure. Total moles is basically 1.5 plus X equals to total pressure is okay. Total pressure. ओके इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि ये 1.5 मोल्स पे था प्रेशर 0.1 ऐड हुआ और टोटल प्रेशर कितना था 1.5 प्लस एक्स ओके आई होप इट मेक्स सेंस टू यू ठीक है ये जो 1 पी पे टोटल मोल्स तुम्हारे पास थे वो 1.5 थे ना ये पी के ऊपर थे आई मीन 1 पी के ऊपर सो जरा समझना इसको अंडरस्टैंड करना मैं लिखता हूँ ये हो जाएगा 1 पी प्लस 0.1 पी equals to 1.1 p okay understand करना 1.5 plus x equals to 1 p के ऊपर number of moles कितने थे 1.5 plus 0.1 और ये जो 1.1 p है ये तुम्हारे पास कब आया जब तुम्हारे पास ये मोल्स थे सॉरी जब तुम्हारे पास ये वाले मोल्स थे सही है ओ माय बैड ये 1.1 p तुम्हारे पास कब आया जब तुम्हारे पास ये 1.5 मोल्स थे ठीक है दैट्स वेरी ट्रिकी गाइस होल्ड ऑन आई थिंक इसको इक्वेट नहीं करना पड़ेगा बट इसको हमने कुछ इस तरह से लिखना है 1.5 ये टोटल प्रेशर बन जाएगा आपके पास माय गुडनेस दैट्स टफ होल्ड ऑन 1.5 into 0.1 माय गुडनेस into 0.1 ओह ओके 1.5 1.5 3 into 0.1 is basically 0.3 ओके तो ये हो जाएगा 1.5 plus x that's tricky equals to ये हो जाएगा 0.3 राइट तो यहाँ से x की वैल्यू कितनी हो जाएगी 3 hold on stuck नहीं ऐसे नहीं there must be something going on which I'm missing. Okay, so let me calculate the value of x from here. So x की value is going to be 1.5 0.1 into 1.5. That's the value of x from here. Examiner is looking for the mass of oxygen, which means I need to find the moles of oxygen, and the moles of oxygen can be calculated by using this 2x. I've got the value of x, which is 0.1 into 1.5. So the moles is going to be 0.3. Mass of oxygen is basically what? 0.3 into 32. So 0.3 into 32 is going to be 9.6 gram. Oh, that's a tough question. Very, very tough. ये चीज समझने की है कि ये जो टोटल मोल्स हैं ये बेसिकली तुम्हारे इन टोटल प्रेशर के बराबर हैं, ठीक है? सो दैट्स व्हाई यू नीड टू इक्वेट बोथ ऑफ देम. बट क्वेश्चन इज के ये 0.1 आया कहाँ से? तो याद रखना कि 10% डिसोसिएशन हुई थी जिसकी वजह से ये 1.1 बना. तो 1 में से 10% डिसोसिएशन हुई, 0.1 बना. दोनों को ऐड करेंगे तो 1.1 बनेगा ये, ठीक है? That's a tough question. Anyway, let's move on to the 11. Which statement about PF5 is correct? Let me draw the structure of PF5. Fluorine, 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 and then fluorine, okay? The bond angle here is 90 degree, and the bond angle here is 120 degree. So it doesn't have only one angle, it has two different angles, which is why option A is incorrect. The central atom in the molecule does not have a lone pair of electron. That's true, because phosphorus has 5 valence electrons, and all those 5 valence electrons are involved in the bonding. So which means there will be no electron. So most likely B is going to be the correct answer. But let me read option C also. The dipole moment, the molecule has an overall dipole moment. That's not possible because ये डायपोल एक दूसरे को कैंसिल आउट कर देंगे, जबकि इस प्लेनर ज्योमेट्री की वजह से ये डायपोल मोमेंट भी एक दूसरे को नलिफाई कर देंगे. सो PF5 मॉलिक्यूल हैज नो ओवरऑल डायपोल. C. The shape of the molecule is octahedral, no, trigonal, bipyramidal. So it's again incorrect. Question number 12. Which solid compound has both ionic and covalent bonding but not coordinate bonding? This molecule has coordinate covalent bond, so it's incorrect. This molecule exhibit only ionic bond, it's incorrect. This molecule exhibit ionic, covalent, and dative, all three, which means it's also incorrect. So right answer is going to be B, because this molecule exhibit covalent bonding and ionic bonding, but this compound has no dative bonding or coordinate covalent bonding. Ionic bonding कैसे है? Because oxygen has negative charge and sodium has positive charge, which means clear-cut negative positive charges has electrostatic attraction, and therefore electrostatic attraction indicate that it has an ionic bonding also, okay? Next, question number 13. Which equation represents the standard enthalpy change of formation? So standard enthalpy change of formation is applicable for 1 mole of compound. So 1 mole of compound is formed from its constituent elements in their standard states under standard condition. So under standard condition, ethanol is liquid, it is not gas, which is why it is wrong. Ethanol is liquid, it is not gas, which is why it is also wrong. Ethanol is liquid, that's correct. But this hydrogen is not balanced, which is why it is also wrong, and therefore D is going to be the right answer, because constituent elements भी हैं यहाँ पर, under standard condition भी exist हो रही है, और ये जो equation में moles हैं ये भी balanced हुए हैं. Okay. Next, when potassium magnate 6 reacts with concentrated hydrochloric acid. So let me write the equation. The products includes chlorine, MnCl2, and obviously potassium and chlorine combine together to give potassium chloride. Okay, so how many potassium here? 2, which means I need to put 2 here. And also hydrogen and oxygen combine together to give water. Water molecule also. Okay, how many oxygen atoms here? 4. So to balance oxygen, I'm going to put 4 here. How many hydrogen atoms here? 8. So I'm going to put 8 here. How many chlorine atoms here? 8. So I'm going to put 2 already है, 2 यहाँ है, 4. So 8 complete करने के लिए मैं यहाँ पर 2 लगाऊंगा. Okay. So total chlorine atoms would be 8. Potassium 2, manganese 1, manganese 1, hydrogen 8, oxygen 4, oxygen 4. Balanced chemical equation. Examiner is saying when 1 mole of K2MnO4 reacts with an excess of hydrochloric acid, how many moles of chlorine will be produced? So if it has 1 mole, and obviously it has 2 moles. So 2 moles, right answer is going to be an N. Okay. Another calculation based question, which I firmly believe is going to be super duper tough. Nitrogen hydrogen mixture initially in the molar ratio 1:3. Okay, so first of all, let me write the equation. This is N2 plus 3H2, reversible sign 2NH3. So initially, we have 1 mole, we have 3 mole, and obviously it must be 0. Okay. Reaches equilibrium with ammonia when 50% of nitrogen has reacted. Okay. 50% of nitrogen has been reacted. The total final pressure is P. What is the partial pressure of ammonia in the equilibrium mixture? So reacted amount is not given. So let's assume that X moles नाइट्रोजन से रिएक्ट हुए, तो 1:3 की वजह से 3x मोल्स हाइड्रोजन से रिएक्ट हो जाएंगे. ओके. और जाहिर सी बात है इसका 1:2 का रेशियो है. अगर यहां से x मोल्स रिएक्ट हुए हैं तो यहां कितने बनेंगे? 2x. ओके. सो इक्विलिब्रियम मोल्स यहां से कितने हो जाएंगे? 1 minus x, then 3 minus 3x, then 2x. Okay. सो 50% निकालें आप इसका 1 का. So ये हो जाएगा 50% of this is going to be 0.5. So ये हो जाएगा 1 minus 0.5. ये हो जाएगा 3 minus 3.5. And this is 2.5. It's going to be 1. It's going to be 0.5. And it's going to be how much? 3 into 0.5. 0.5 into 3. 2.5. 3 minus answer 1.5. So these are the moles, equilibrium moles of this. Let me get the total moles to get the partial pressure. So it's 0.5 plus 1.5 plus 1. So it's going to be how much? 3 moles. Partial pressure of ammonia, examiner is looking for. So moles of ammonia is 1 divided by total moles 3 into pressure, which is P. So it's going to be P over 3. The right answer is going to be C. Okay. I hope you get the logic. I hope you get the point. Let's move on to the next question. Propyl methanoate is basically an ester, and its structure is this. Propyl 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one is 5. So basically, this is propyl, and this is methanoate. Is hydrolyzed with NaOH at 20 degrees Celsius to form two products, X and Y. So when it is hydrolyzed, obviously bond यहाँ से break होगा. It will turn to methanoic acid and pentanol, C5H11OH. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbon atoms. 7 to 9, 9 to 11, and then OH. Okay. Since the medium is alkaline, which means this carboxylic acid, because of alkaline medium, undergoes an acid-base reaction, and as a result, it will turn to sodium methanoate and water. So the final product would be pentanol and sodium methanoate. Okay. So this is your alcohol. Which row is correct? Average rate of reaction between 240 and 300. So get the change in oxidation state from these two values. 0.022 minus 0.019. 3 into 10 to the power minus 3 mole per dm3. So that's a change in concentration, guys. Okay. And get the time. So it's basically 300 minus 240 is basically 60 seconds. So to get the rate, change in concentration over time taken, which is 60 divided by 60, it's going to be 5 into 10 to the power minus 5. Concentration has a unit of mole per dm cube and time has a second. So unit is going to be mole per dm cube per second. So right answer is going to be an A. Okay. And obviously product Y is basically sodium methanoate because X is an alcohol. It has to be Y. Okay. That's the only option we have. We have an option of methanoic acid also, but मैंने कहा था आपको कि जब सोडियम हाइड्रोक्साइड का मीडियम होगा इट विल टर्न टू सॉल्ट, तो मैं सॉल्ट को लूंगा, एसिड को नहीं लूंगा. ठीक है, ये टेक्निकल एरिया था यहाँ पर. एनीवे, आई एम डन विद क्वेश्चन नंबर 16. Let's move on to the next question. The table shows the numbers of bond pairs and lone pairs in 4 different species. Nitrogen molecule exhibit triple bond, so it has 3 bond pair. That's true. 3 bond pairs means 3 covalent bonds. It has 1 lone pair here and another lone pair here. Technically, it has 2 lone pair. Examiner is saying 1 lone pair, which means it is incorrect. Now, ammonia molecule has 3 bond pair and 1 lone pair. Examiner is saying it has 4 bond pairs, which is why it is wrong. Ammoniamine has 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair. So 4 single bond is fine and 0 lone pair is also fine, which means C is going to be the right answer. Hydroxide ions. Let's talk about hydroxide ions. This is OH negative ions. Now, oxygen has 6 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one is 6. And that electron is absorbed from somewhere else during the reaction. So technically, it has 3 lone pairs. Examiner is saying 4, which is wrong. By the way, this one is right because 1 to hota hi hai. So it's wrong, okay? Which row is correct? Silver iodide dissolves in aqueous ammonia. That's absolutely incorrect. Silver iodide remains insoluble both in concentrated and dilute aqueous ammonia, which is why option A is incorrect. HCl decomposes more readily than HI. HI, the bond is weaker than HCl, which is why HCl decomposes less rapidly. That means it is also incorrect. Iodine has a higher melting point than chlorine. That's right, because iodine has more number of electrons than chlorine, and so iodine exhibits strong van der Waals forces as compared to chlorine, which is why C is going to be the right answer because both the statements are correct. Okay. Iodine is a weaker oxidizing agent, weaker because down the group oxidizing power of halogens decreases. So it is wrong, which is why it is also wrong. Okay. Substance J reacts with water. So we have barium and magnesium. So when barium reacts with water, it will turn to barium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. But when barium oxide is placed in water, it will turn to only barium hydroxide and no gas. And same criteria with magnesium also. Magnesium gives you hydrogen gas, while magnesium oxide will give you magnesium hydroxide but no hydrogen gas. Okay. So हम इसी को लिख लेते हैं यहाँ पर एक मर्तबा और, बट हम इसको मैग्नीशियम के लिए ले लेते हैं, राइट? एवरीथिंग इज सेम, बट यहाँ मैग्नीशियम, बेरियम के बजाय मैग्नीशियम लिखिए. Okay. A gas is given off. So gas is given off with barium and gas is given off with magnesium. इसका मतलब barium oxide and magnesium oxide is incorrect option because gas तो मिल नहीं रही उससे. And the pH of the solution increases. Obviously, ये भी alkaline solution है और ये भी alkaline solution. और आप जानते हैं कि from magnesium to barium, solubility of group 2 hydroxides increases, which means barium hydroxide is more soluble and give you a colorless solution than magnesium hydroxide. Anyway, let's read the question again. The solution is then reacted with sulfuric acid and white precipitates formed. So when barium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid, it will turn to barium sulfate and water. Okay, and this barium sulfate has white precipitates. By the way, when magnesium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid, it will turn to magnesium sulfate and water. But magnesium sulfate is soluble in water, it will give you a colorless solution, which is why magnesium is also incorrect, and therefore A is going to be the right answer because मुझे A से precipitates मिल रहे हैं. ठीक है? एग्जामिनर ने यहाँ कहा है white precipitates forms. So white precipitates सिर्फ और सिर्फ barium hydroxide के मिल रहे हैं मुझे. Sorry, barium sulfate के. Next question. Compound L has empirical formula NH. Okay. It decomposes on gentle heating to produce ammonia. All right, that's a very powerful statement. According to my lecture, ammonium salt is decomposed on heating to give ammonia gas. Which means this compound L is basically ammonium salt, which means this salt contains ammonium ions. Okay, so it is wrong because it doesn't have any ammonium ions. It is wrong because it doesn't have any ammonium ions. So option A and option C are incorrect options. Now these two options have ammonium salts. Okay, so either it could be this one or that one. Anyway, and also an aqueous solution of compound L is a good conductor of electricity. When we say it is a good conductor of electricity, which means it must have free mobile ions. So look at this. इसके पास भी free mobile ions, इसके पास भी free mobile ions. Now, when we combine these two ions, we have 2 nitrogen and we have 4 hydrogen. Okay, oh sorry, 6 hydrogen. So when, and that's the molecular formula. When we get the empirical formula, we need to divide by 2. So the empirical formula is going to be NH3, and examiner is saying oh, an examiner is saying compound M. Empirical formula is NH3, and this is not the empirical formula of compound M. But when these two species combine together, then we have 2 nitrogen and 4 hydrogen. When we divide by 2, we'll get what? And 2, sorry, my bad. I'm getting tired now. How many nitrogen? 4 nitrogen. How many hydrogen? 4 hydrogen. So to get the empirical formula, divide by 4. So its empirical formula is NH. And this is the empirical formula of NH, guys. And it's proved. The empirical formula of when we combine these two species, the empirical formula is NH3. Over here, we have only NH, which is why it's incorrect. On the other hand, when we get the empirical formula by combining these two species, the empirical formula is going to be NH, which is given in this. So I believe D is going to be the right answer. Let me check one more thing. Let me check. वैसे तो आंसर आ गया है, but let me check one more thing. If NH4 and 3 is decomposed on heating, it will turn to ammonia gas. So what's left from here? 1 hydrogen and 3 nitrogen. 1 hydrogen and 3 nitrogen combined together to give HN3. So HN3 is given. Hence proof. Both of them are right. So D is going to be the right answer, okay? That's a tricky part, okay? Anyway, question 21. X, Y, and Z are elements in period 3 of the periodic table, the result of the some experiments carried out with compounds of these elements as shown. Element X has an oxide. When it is treated with water, it has no reaction. That means this element X could be silicon or aluminum, okay? When the chloride of this X treated with water undergoes hydrolysis, that indicates either silicon or aluminum, because both chlorides of silicon and aluminum can easily hydrolyze with water. Now the oxide of Y, when treated with HCl, forms chloride salt. By the way, the oxide of silicon is basically silicon dioxide, which is acidic oxide. And you know, acidic oxide cannot react with acid, which is why silicon is going to be the incorrect option. So element X is aluminum for sure. So if element X is aluminum, that means A is going to be the right answer. बाकी पढ़ने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. आंसर आ गया हमारा. ओके, चलो Y को भी देख लो. The oxide of Y, when treated with water, forms hydroxide. So it could be sodium or magnesium. The chloride of Y dissolves, so it could be sodium or magnesium. The oxide of Y reacts with HCl. Both sodium oxide and magnesium oxide are basic oxide. They can react with acid to form salt and water. That's true. So Y जो है वो सोडियम भी हो सकता है, मैग्नीशियम. एग्जामिनर ने यहाँ Y मैग्नीशियम दिया हुआ है, which is why A is the right answer. X जो है वो सिलिकॉन नहीं हो सकता, फॉर श्योर इट इज एल्यूमिनियम, क्योंकि मैंने कहा है कि सिलिकॉन का जो ऑक्साइड होता है वो सिलिकॉन डाइऑक्साइड होता है, वो एसिडिक ऑक्साइड होता है, और एसिडिक ऑक्साइड कभी भी एसिड से रिएक्शन नहीं करते. अच्छा, अब एक चीज और देख लीजिए, Z से रिलेटेड. ये एसिड बना रहा है, इसका मतलब एसिडिक ऑक्साइड है, और एसिडिक ऑक्साइड कभी भी एसिड से रिएक्शन नहीं करते, जबकि वो कह रहा है हाइड्रोलाइज हो रहा है, विच इज वाई Z जो है वो कंफर्म नहीं है कि क्या चीज है हमारे पास. इट कुड बी एन एसिडिक ऑक्साइड बट कैन नॉट रिएक्ट विद एसिड, which means ये कुछ और ही चीज है, but इसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन करेक्ट नहीं है हमारे पास, which means we need to ignore Z because it's not confirmed what sort of element is that. Okay, I hope it makes sense to you. भाई अगर Z का ऑक्साइड बनाओगे और उसको वाटर में डिसॉल्व करोगे तो वो एसिडिक सोल्यूशन देगा, क्योंकि वो कह रहा है फॉर्म्स एसिड। तो अगर ये एसिडिक ऑक्साइड है तो जाहिर सी बात है एसिडिक ऑक्साइड कैन नॉट रिएक्ट विद एसिड, राइट? वो कह रहा है इट रिएक्ट्स विद एसिड एंड हाइड्रोलाइजेस इजीली, सो दैट्स इनकरेक्ट। ओके, क्वेश्चन 22. The flow diagram shows two successive reactions starting from element Q. Element Q is either calcium or barium. Let's start first with calcium. So when calcium is treated with oxygen, it will turn to calcium oxide. This is my step 1. And then calcium oxide, when treated with water, it will turn to calcium hydroxide. And that's my reaction 2. Barium, when reacted with oxygen, it will turn to barium oxide. And when barium oxide reacts with water, it will turn to barium hydroxide. Okay. All right. Element Q forms a nitrate. So calcium बनाएगा nitrate, which is calcium nitrate. Barium बनाएगा, which is barium nitrate. ये less stable होता है, easily decompose होता है. ये most stable होता है, easily decompose नहीं होता. वो कह रहे हैं forms nitrate that is less thermally stable. तो calcium nitrate is less thermally stable than strontium nitrate. So it must be calcium nitrate because barium nitrate is more thermally stable than strontium nitrate. So calcium is basically the right answer. So compound R is basically calcium hydroxide. That's the right answer. Okay. वाटर को ऐड करने के बाद कंपाउंड R is basically calcium hydroxide. That's your R. दोबारा से सुन लो मैंने कैसे डिसाइड किया. उसने कहा है एलिमेंट क्यू फॉर्म्स अ नाइट्रेट, तो इसका मतलब कैल्शियम नाइट्रेट भी बनाएगा, बेरियम नाइट्रेट भी बनाएगा. सही है. अब तुम जानते हो कि बेरियम नाइट्रेट मोस्ट स्टेबल है और कैल्शियम नाइट्रेट लेस स्टेबल है. फिर वो उसने क्लू दिया तुम्हें, दैट इज लेस थर्मली स्टेबल देन स्ट्रोंशियम नाइट्रेट. सो कैल्शियम नाइट्रेट इज लेस थर्मली स्टेबल देन स्ट्रोंशियम नाइट्रेट. बेरियम नाइट्रेट चूंकि मोर थर्मली स्टेबल देन स्ट्रोंशियम नाइट्रेट, विच मींस मैं बेरियम नाइट्रेट को नहीं ले सकता. मेरा कंपाउंड आर जो है वो बेरियम हाइड्रोक्साइड नहीं हो सकता. मेरा compound R has to be calcium hydroxide, and that's the right answer. Okay. Question 23. Which anions are formed when chlorine is passed into cold aqueous potassium hydroxide? Oh, we have done that in class. When cold potassium hydroxide is treated with chlorine, it undergoes disproportionation reaction to give potassium chloride, to give potassium chlorate 1 and water. Now spectator ions cancel out with each other. So my final equation is going to be 2OH negative plus Cl2 arrow Cl negative plus ClO negative plus H2O. So this correct. Right answer is A. What increases for each successive element in period 3 from sodium to sulfur? The highest oxidation number of elements seen in their oxide. That's true. ये बात हमने वेरिएंस 13 में भी आपको बताई है, जून 2025 में, कि सोडियम ऑक्साइड टू सल्फर ट्राइऑक्साइड oxidation state of element increases because of the increase in the number of valence electrons. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay. But कुछ ऑक्साइड्स का पीरियड 3 में मेल्टिंग पॉइंट ज्यादा होता है, जैसे सिलिकॉन डाइऑक्साइड, एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड, सोडियम ऑक्साइड, मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड. लेकिन कुछ ऑक्साइड्स का कम होता है, जैसे सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड, ट्राइऑक्साइड, P4O10, P4O6. ओके. सो ऑप्शन बी जो है वो इनकरेक्ट होगा. सबका इंक्रीज नहीं होता. द नंबर ऑफ ऑक्यूपाइड ऑर्बिटल्स, सिंस पीरियड 3 के एलिमेंट्स हैं तो सबने 3 शेल्स जो हैं वो ऑक्यूपाई किए हुए होंगे, तो सेम नंबर ऑफ ऑक्यूपाइड ऑर्बिटल्स भी होंगे, विच इज वाई ये भी गलत. द पीएच ऑफ सोल्यूशन ऑफ द क्लोराइड इन वाटर, सोडियम क्लोराइड न्यूट्रल होता है, मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड वीकली एसिडिक होता है, एल्यूमिनियम क्लोराइड स्ट्रांगली, सिलिकॉन डाइऑक्साइड स्ट्रांगली एसिडिक। तो इंक्रीज क्या हो रहा है ये नहीं पता चल रहा, वो तो एसिडिक कैरेक्टर, बेस एसिडिक कैरेक्टर की बात हो रही है। तो इंक्रीज नहीं हो रहा, but एसिडिक कैरेक्टर चेंज हो रहा है, तो इट हैज नथिंग टू डू विद द कैरेक्टर। एनीवे, क्वेश्चन 25, which statement about an ammonia mine is correct? Let me draw the structure of ammonia mine. You know, this ammonia mine has 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair. So I will write 3 lines. First line represents s orbital, remaining line represents p orbital. So hybridization according to the shortcut is going to be sp3. Whenever we have 3 single bond and a 4 single bond and a 0 lone pair, the angle is going to be 109.5 degree and geometry is going to be tetrahedral. And this ammonia mine exhibit 2 types of bonding. The first one is covalent and the second one is dative bond, which is also called coordinate covalent bond. If you remember, we have done this equation in the class. So all NH bond angle in ammonia mines is 90 degree, not at all 109.5 degree. 107 degree, not at all 109.5 degree. The ion contain NH dative covalent bond. NH is not dative, it is only covalent bond. Again wrong. The ion will react with base as it is a weak acid. That's true because ammonium ion, according to my lecture, is a conjugate acid. If it is a conjugate acid, so it donates its proton in aqueous alkaline medium and converting into ammonia and water. Question number 26. An alcohol U is reacted with hot acidified potassium dichromate 6 solution. इसका मतलब oxidation is taking place. The organic product of this reaction contain this by mass. What is the identity of alcohol U? तो सबसे पहले तो A को देखते हैं. Butane 2-ol. Butane means we have 4 carbon atom. 2-ol means second carbon पे OH. 2-methyl means second carbon पे CH3, which means it is tertiary alcohol, 3-degree alcohol, and 3-degree alcohol cannot oxidize, which is why option A is incorrect. Okay. Now 3-methyl butane 2-ol. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 2 OH and this is 3-methyl. All right. Whew. So when it is a secondary alcohol, when it is oxidized with potassium dichromate 6, it will turn into ketone. Okay. Let's talk about pentane 1-ol. Pentane 1-ol is simple. CH3, CH2, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one is CH2OH. Since it has a primary alcohol, so when you oxidized in the presence of hot acidified potassium dichromate 6, it will turn to carboxylic acid. Okay. Formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbon atoms. How many hydrogens? 3 plus 2. 3 plus 2, 5, 7, 9, and 1, 10. And 2 oxygen atom. Okay. Now propane 1-ol is basically CH3, CH2, CH2OH. Now propane 1-ol is basically primary alcohol. So under such condition with hot acidified K2Cr2O7, it will turn to carboxylic acid, that is propanic acid. The molecular formula of propanic acid is C3 6O2. Okay, ये पता कैसे चलेगा इस कैलकुलेशन के बाद? Let's talk about this calculation. That's a tough question. Lot of ठीक है, सही है. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbon has a mass of 58.8. Hydrogen is 9.8. And oxygen is 31.4. To get the moles divided by 12, divided by 1, divided by 16. Hold on, 58.8 divided by 12, so it's going to be 4.9. It's basically 9.8. 31.4 divided by 16, it's going to be 1.9625. Divided by 1.9625, divided by 1.9625. To get the simplest ratio, I'm going to divide it by this. So 4.9 divided by answer 2.49. So it's basically 2.5. 9.8 divided by 1.9625. It's going to be 4.99. That means 5. And it's basically 1. इसको whole number में convert करने के लिए 2 से multiply करेंगे. So it's going to be 5. It's going to be 10. It's going to be 2. So the empirical formula is C5H10O2. ये empirical formula किससे match कर रहा है? इससे match कर रहा है. Which is why C is going to be the right answer. Okay. Also, जाहिर बात है जो 5 कार्बन एटम का empirical निकाला है वही molecular होगा, क्योंकि मैं इसको हाफ नहीं कर सकता. तो जो empirical होता है वही molecular होता है. Also, it has 2 oxygen. That indicates कि जो अल्कोहल है तुम्हारे पास U, वो जब ऑक्सीडाइज होगा तो कार्बोक्सिलिक एसिड बनाएगा, because कार्बोक्सिलिक acid has 2 oxygen atoms. Okay, that's also the case. That's also the part of explanation. Next, question number 27. Which row shows primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohol? Primary, this is primary alcohol. This is primary alcohol. This is primary alcohol. And this is primary alcohol. So all of them are correct. All of them are primary alcohol. Okay. Secondary alcohol. This is primary and secondary both. This is tertiary wrong. This is only primary wrong. This is secondary correct. Tertiary. This is primary, secondary wrong. This is primary wrong. This is only primary wrong. And this is only tertiary. So right answer is going to be D. Question 28. 1-chloro 2-methylbutane reacts with sodium cyanide in a nucleophilic substitution reaction. What is the most likely intermediate of the transition state of this reaction? 1-chloro 2-methylbutane. So cyanide is going to be the nucleophile. And obviously it's going to be, and it's going to replace this chloride. So bond breaking and bond formation takes place between carbon chlorine and carbon cyanide. And obviously around carbon we have pentavalent transition state. Pentavalent means 5 bonds along with a negative charge. So that satisfies the condition. Okay. That's not possible. That's incorrect. Why? Because this one alkyl group, this is second alkyl group, this is third alkyl group, which means it's going to be tertiary, and tertiary में कभी भी pentavalent transition state नहीं बनती. So that's incorrect. That's also incorrect because it is tertiary carbocation, which is not possible. Tertiary carbocation always takes place in tertiary alkyl halide, whereas this 1-chloro 2-methylbutane is basically primary alkyl halide. This is also. and this is primary carbocation. Primary carbocation cannot takes place, and primary carbocation cannot form in primary alkyl halide. Okay, so 1-chloro-2-methyl butane. Let me check. Let me give you one more information. मेरे लिए तो आसान है बेटा, मैंने जज कर लिया 1 2 3 4 1-chloro, which means फर्स्ट कार्बन के साथ क्लोरीन और थर्ड कार्बन के साथ CH3. Okay, so that's the case of 1-chloro-2-methyl butane. So अगर मुझे इसका स्ट्रक्चर बनाकर देना हो आपको तो मैं बनाऊंगा, लेकिन उससे पहले एक चीज और, ये प्राइमरी अल्काइल हैलाइड है, एंड प्राइमरी अल्काइल हैलाइड में कभी भी टर्शियरी कार्बोकैटायन नहीं बनते, प्राइमरी कार्बोकैटायन नहीं बनते. तो ये दोनों गलत हो गए. एक बात. दूसरी बात, आप नोट करें, इस कार्बन के साथ 2 हाइड्रोजन है, तो इस कार्बन के साथ भी 2 हाइड्रोजन एग्जामिनर ने लिए हैं, जबकि इस कार्बन के साथ एग्जामिनर ने सारे अल्काइल ग्रुप कर दिए, विच इज व्हाई इट इज आल्सो रॉन्ग. अच्छा, अब मैं इसको बना के दिखा देता हूँ. ये कार्बन है, इसके साथ ये 2 हाइड्रोजन हैं, इसके साथ एक क्लोरीन है, इसके साथ एक CH2 है, इस CH2 के साथ एक CH है, और CH के साथ 2 CH3 है. ये लिखा हुआ है एग्जामिनर ने. ठीक है, ऑल राइट. ओ, ये भी CH2 एंड CH3. सही है, ये आ गया. तो अगर तुम न्यूक्लियोफाइल से अटैक करवाओगे साइनाइड, तो इस तरह से रिएक्शन करेंगे. ठीक है, ये स्लाइड नेगेटिव होता है, ये स्लाइड पॉजिटिव होता है, तो ये बनेगी डायग्राम पेंटावेलेंट ट्रांजिशन स्टेट में. ओके, which is why A, I believe, is going to be the right answer. That's a very straightforward question. I hope कि आपको समझ में आया हो. Question 29. Oh God. Just give me a minute. When 0.010 mole of hydrocarbon X reacts with 720 cm cube of hydrogen at room temperature, what is the formula of hydrocarbon X? First of all, let's count the total number of bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and this one is 6. So come hydrocarbon X reacts with 6 moles of hydrogen gas. Option A के लिए discussion करें. Okay. This is hydrocarbon X, which is the formula of this, reacting with 6 moles of hydrogen. Why 6 moles of hydrogen? Because we have 6 double bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 moles of hydrogen gas. According to the equation, we have 1 mole and 6 moles. अगर एग्जामिनर ने 0.01 मोल दिया है, तो बताइए मोल्स ऑफ हाइड्रोजन कितने हो जाएंगे? 0.06. और अगर मुझे वॉल्यूम कैलकुलेट करना है हाइड्रोजन का, सो मैं 0.06 को मल्टीप्लाई करूंगा 24,000 cm क्यूब से. सो इट्स गोइंग टू बी हाउ मच? होल्ड ऑन. 0.06 into 24,000 cm cube, 1440 cm क्यूब. एग्जामिनर ने मुझे 720 cm क्यूब दिया है, विच इज वाई ये वैल्यू मैच नहीं कर रही, विच इज वाई ऑप्शन ए इज इनकरेक्ट. ऑप्शन बी की बात करते हैं. It has 1 double bond, second, third, and this one is fourth. So compound X reacts with 4 moles of hydrogen. ये 1 mole, ये 4 mole. अगर ये 0.01 मोल है, तो ये कितना होगा? 0.04 मोल होगा. अगर वॉल्यूम कैलकुलेट करना है हाइड्रोजन गैस का आपने, सो 0.04 को मल्टीप्लाई करो 24,000 cm क्यूब से. सो यू विल गेट व्हाट? 0.04 into 24,000 cm cube, 960. ओके, यहां पर वैल्यू है 720, विच मींस ये भी इनकरेक्ट क्योंकि वैल्यू मैच नहीं हो रही. अब हम ऑप्शन सी की बात करते हैं. ऑप्शन सी हैज 3 डबल बॉन्ड, विच मींस कंपाउंड एक्स रिएक्ट्स विद 3 मोल्स ऑफ हाइड्रोजन. ये 1 मोल अकॉर्डिंग टू द इक्वेशन, ये 3 मोल. व्हेन वी हैव 0.01 मोल, 0.01 mole, so moles of hydrogen would be 0.03 moles. Let's find the volume. 0.03 into 24,000 cm3. So it's going to be 0.03 into 24,000 cm3. It's going to be 720 cm3. और आप नोट करें ये 720 cm3 is given in the question. Match कर गई value, which is why C is going to be the right answer. C is going to be the hydrocarbon of X. Okay. I hope it makes sense to you. My goodness. An alkene reacts with hot concentrated acid by KMnO4 to produce a single organic product as shown. What is the structure of alkene? Whenever hot concentrated KMnO4 is used, alkene is going to be the reactant. All of them are alkenes. We need to decide one by one. यार मैंने तो कुछ बातें आप लोगों को कही थी, मैं उन्हीं बातों को फिर दोबारा से रिपीट करता हूँ. आई हैव टोल्ड यू इन द क्लास, whenever you have double bonded CH, it will turn to CWH. Whenever you have double bonded C, it will turn to ketone. So let's make the structure. All right, and I hope कि आपको बात समझ में आएगी. मैं यहां से स्टार्ट कर रहा हूं. This is CH3. This is CH3. This is C double bond O. This is CH2. This is CH. Then we have CH3, this one. This is CH2, this is CH2. And this is CH will turn to CWH. अब आप देखिए, this is CH3, this is CH3, this is CO, this is CO, this is CH, this is CH3, and this is CH2. So इसका मतलब CH2 is missing from here, okay? Which means this structure is incorrect, okay? I repeat, CH3, CH3, CO, CO. This is CH2, but this is CH. इसका मतलब this CH2 is missing, which is why option A is incorrect. Let's talk about option B. This is CH3. This is double bonded C, so it will turn to ketone. Then this CH. This CH is CH3. CH2, CH2, CH2. And this CH is basically CWH. Let's tally the structure. CH3, CH3, CO, CO. This is CH, this is CH, this is CH3, this is CH3, CH2, 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 CH2. Then we have CH2, and there is no CH2 here, which means CH2 is missing, right? So this structure is not correct. Let's talk about option C. This is A. This is B. Let's talk about C. This is CH3. This is double bonded C, so it will turn to ketone. CH2, CH2. This is CH. This CH has CH3. And this is CH, will turn to CWH. It is absolutely incorrect, okay? ये देखो, ये CH3, ये रहा CH3, ये CO, ये रहा CO, ये CH है, जबकि यहाँ CH2 है. सही है? तो जो सीक्वेंस है वो डिफरेंट है. ये भी रॉन्ग हो गया. तो सब रॉन्ग हो गए, तो आंसर इज डी. लेट्स ओपन द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ डी. लेकिन इसको ओपन करने के लिए मैं यहाँ पर हाईलाइट कर रहा हूँ कि ये डबल बॉन्डेड सी है तो इट विल टर्न टू कीटोन, और ये डबल बॉन्डेड सी है तो इट विल टर्न टू CWH. तो आप नोट कीजिएगा ये क्या है, CH3. इसको लिखते हैं. Then double bonded C, it will turn to ketone. Then this CH, This CH has CH3. ये रहा वो CH3. Then this CH has CH2 and CH2. और इसको CWH में कन्वर्ट कर लो. Let's tally the structure. ये CH3, ये CH3, ये CO, ये CO, ये CH, ये रहा CH. इसके साथ ये CH3, ये रहा CH3. CH2, 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 CH2. This is CWH, this is CWH. Okay, D is the right answer. Question number 31. Testosterone is an optically active organic molecule. How many chiral centers are there in one molecule of testosterone? यार जो नहीं है chiral carbon atoms वो determine कर लो. CH2, CH2, CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3, CH2, CH2, double bond, double bond, double bond. CH2, CH2. ये chiral carbon atoms नहीं हो सकते. सही ना. सिमिलर ग्रुप्स अगर अटैच हो तो chiral carbon atoms नहीं होंगे. तो इसका मतलब this one is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and this one is sixth. The right answer is going to be B. Okay. That's what we have done in the class. That was the shortcut. Quinone, my favorite, is an unsaturated molecule because of the presence of double bond. By the way, it is also a ketone. Which statement about quinone is correct? Quinone is non-planar. All carbon atoms are double bonded carbon atoms. So all carbon atoms are sp2 hybridized and all sp2 hybridized carbons are planar. Examiner is saying non-planar, which is absolutely incorrect. Option A is wrong. Quinone is a non-planar and does not have overall dipole moment. It is planar, bhai, because of the sp2 hybridized carbon. So it is also wrong. Option C, quinone is planar, right, and has an overall dipole moment. Wrong. Why? Because this compound has center of symmetry. तो आप नोट करें ये वाला पार्ट इस वाले पार्ट से एग्जैक्टली मैच कर गया है, विच इज वाई जहां सेंटर ऑफ सिमेट्री होती है वहां डायपोल मोमेंट नहीं होता. वो कह रहे हैं ओवरऑल डायपोल मोमेंट. तो आप बोलिए नो नेट डायपोल ड्यू टू सेंटर ऑफ सिमेट्री. सो ये भी गलत. Obviously, D is going to be the right answer because it is planar and does not have an overall dipole. बिल्कुल सही बात है, सेंटर ऑफ सिमेट्री की वजह से नहीं. Question 33. Which reagent would react with 1 bromopropane to give highest yield of propene? Alkyl halide is converting into an alkene, and this reaction only takes place in the presence of ethanolic solution of KOH or NOH. कहाँ लिखा है? Ethanolic NOH. D is going to be the right answer. Okay. So alkyl halide is converting into an alkene. This reaction is going to be an elimination reaction, and we have discussed, I believe, this in class. Question 34. Acidified potassium dichromate 6 is added to propane 1-ol and the mixture is immediately distilled. So propane 1-ol is basically a primary alcohol. When you treat it with potassium dichromate 6, और मैंने कहा था जैसी डिस्टिल की टर्म होगी इसका मतलब एल्डिहाइड चाहिए. So it will turn to a propanol. Okay. और ये प्रोपेनॉल वैसे भी बनेगा, एल्डिहाइड वैसे भी बनेगा, बिकॉज यहाँ पर एसिडिफाइड पोटेशियम डाइक्रोमेट 6 लिखा है. इसको हीट अंडर रिफ्लेक्स नहीं कर रहा है, इसका मतलब सिर्फ यहाँ तक ही काम करना है. अब आगे चलते हैं. The distillate, I mean the propanol, is treated with hydrogen cyanide. So when propanol is treated with hydrogen cyanide, it will turn to साइनोहाइड्रिन, और मैंने साइनोहाइड्रिन बनाने का तरीका सिखाया था आपको, CH3CH2, ये CH है, ये OH होगा और CN आ जाएगा। तो चेक करें ये कहाँ लिखा हुआ है ऑर्गेनिक प्रोडक्ट, ये CH3 फिर CH2 फिर CH फिर OH फिर CN, तो राइट आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी C। ओके, मैं एक मरतबा फिर रिमाइंड करा देता हूँ कि हम कैसे बनाते हैं साइनोहाइड्रिन, मैंने कैसे क्लास में करवाया है वो देख लीजिए। ये है CH3, ये है CH2, ये है C डबल बॉन्ड O एंड दिस वन इज H। अगर मैं इसको हाइड्रोजन साइनाइड से रिएक्शन करवा रहा हूँ तो मैंने कहा था CH3 विल रिमेन, CH2 विल रिमेन सेम, ये जो डबल बॉन्डेड ऑक्सीजन है इट विल टर्न टू OH, ये H एज इट इज रहेगा, इसमें कोई चेंज नहीं आएगा। और जिस कार्बन के साथ OH होता है उसी के साथ साइनाइड भी लगाते हैं, तो जिस कार्बन के साथ OH साइनाइड दोनों होगा वो साइनोहाइड्रिन होगा। ओके, और आपको पता है ये कायरल कार्बन एटम भी है, चेक करें 4 डिफरेंट ग्रुप्स लगे में, पूछ नहीं रहा लेकिन मैं फिर भी बता रहा हूँ आपको। तो जब एल्डिहाइड में साइनोहाइड्रिन बनता है कायरल कार्बन एटम अवेलेबल होती है, ये जहन में रखना बात, ठीक है। क्वेश्चन 35 पे चलते हैं। आई एम टायर्ड गाइस। कंपाउंड X gives positive result when tested separately with alkaline aquacidine and with Tollens reagent. When it gives you a Tollens reagent, which means it must be an aldehyde. Aldehyde is here, aldehyde is given, aldehyde is given, but this is not aldehyde, this is not aldehyde, so option D is incorrect। Okay, अल्कलाइन एक्वस आयोडीन उस वक्त फॉर्म होगा जब CH3CO ग्रुप एक साथ लिखा हुआ होगा, तो CH3CO ग्रुप इसमें एक साथ नहीं लिखा हुआ, विच इज वाई ये भी रॉन्ग। CH3CO ग्रुप यहां पर भी एक साथ नहीं लिखा हुआ, विच इज वाई ये भी रॉन्ग। ये CH3CO ग्रुप एक साथ लिखा हुआ है, ये करेक्ट होगा, और एल्डिहाइड भी आ गया, विच इज वाई C इज गोइंग टू बी द राइट आंसर। ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 36। माय गुडनेस, माय गुडनेस, how many structural and stereoisomerism should be considered when answering this question? How many isomeric esters of methanoic acid can be made with the molecular formula this? So we have a molecular formula and this ester is formed when methanoic acid is used. So I have a very limited space. Let's work here. Let's suppose this is the first ester which is formed through methanoic acid. ये मैंने क्लास में करवाया आपको कॉन्सेप्ट, मेरे टॉपिकल पास पेपर्स के सोल्यूशन में भी ये कॉन्सेप्ट है। सही है, अब जाहिर सी बात है मैं एस्टर को तो चेंज कर नहीं सकता हूँ, सो आई एम नॉट गोना गो फॉर फंक्शनल आइसोमेरिज्म, राइट। मैं इसकी पोजीशन भी नहीं चेंज कर सकता हूँ, आई एम नॉट गोना गो फॉर पोजीशन आइसोमेरिज्म, क्योंकि हाइड्रोकार्बन चेन है, सो आई कैन गो फॉर चेन आइसोमेरिज्म एंड इन विच आई नीड टू मेक अल्काइल ब्रांचेस। तो यहां से सबसे पहले अल्काइल ब्रांच बनाते हैं। CH2CH3, व्हाट आई डिड इज कि CH3 को यहां शिफ्ट किया, हाइड्रोजन को यहां शिफ्ट किया, ये बन जाएगा। ओके, ये भी तो कर सकता हूँ कि मैं हाइड्रोजन को यहां शिफ्ट करूं, CH3 को यहां ले जाऊं, है ना, ये भी तो पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकती है, ये भी तो पॉसिबिलिटी है। देखो बना के दिखाता हूँ, HCOCH2, CH यहां शिफ्ट हो गया, ये भी तो पॉसिबिलिटी है कि इसको उठाएं यहां शिफ्ट कर दें, तो ये बन जाएगा। एक ऑक्सीजन लगाना भूल गया हूं मैं गाइस, बता भी नहीं रहे हैं आप, होल्ड ऑन। मैंने कहा ना आई एम टायर्ड, वेरी वेरी टायर्ड, वेरी वेरी टायर्ड। अरे भाई, फिर हम इसको यहां लेकर आएंगे तो ये यहां जाएगा, तो ऑब्वियसली हम यहाँ पर एक ऑक्सीजन और लगा देते हैं यहाँ। ये ऑक्सीजन और ये CH2, सही है। अच्छा, व्हाट्स लेफ्ट, अब क्या हो सकता है? अब ये हो सकता है कि ये CH3 उठाओ यहाँ ले जाओ, ये वाला हाइड्रोजन यहाँ आ जाए, सो ये हो जाएगा HCO, CH3, CH3, CH3। आप नोट करें ये काइरल कार्बन एटम भी है, सो ये 2 to the power 1 इक्वल्स टू 2 आ जाएगा। तो 2 आइसोमर्स ये हो गए, 3, 4, 5। सो राइट आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी 5। ओके, question 37. The juice of one lemon reacts completely with 120 cm cube of 0.5 mole per dm cube sodium carbonate solution. Okay, so let's find out the moles of sodium carbonate. 120 into 0.5 divided by 1000. So 120 into 0.5 divided by 1000. So it's going to be 0.06 moles. Okay. The formula of citric acid is given: 1 CWH, second CWH, and third CWH. तो अगर आपको याद हो, मैंने क्लास में आपको ट्राई प्रोटिक एसिड कहा था, ट्राई बेसिक एसिड कहा था, तो दिस इज ट्राई बेसिक एसिड। और मैंने आपसे ये कहा था दुनिया के कोई भी ट्राई बेसिक एसिड होगा उसको हम H3X के सिंबल से रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे। ओके, जैसे फॉस्फोरिक एसिड इज ट्राई बेसिक एसिड, इसी तरह से सिट्रिक एसिड इज ट्राई बेसिक एसिड because one molecule of this citric acid donates 3 hydrogen ions in aqueous medium, because यहां से भी एक जाएगा, यहां से भी एक जाएगा, यहां से भी एक जाएगा। Alcohols are neutral, they will remain unchanged. Okay, याद रखना ये बात। तो जो कॉन्सेप्ट दिया था देखो वो यहाँ अप्लाई हो गया। So let me talk about the equation. अब इक्वेशन तो जाहिर सी बात है इतनी लेंथी है, तो इतनी लेंथी इक्वेशन को हम कैसे मैनेज करें, चले आए देखते हैं। This is sodium carbonate reacting with H3X, and X is basically 3 minus charge, okay, because hydrogen पे +1 charge होता है। So it's going to be sodium for Na3X plus water plus carbon dioxide. That's tricky, very very tricky. How many sodium is 3? तो यहाँ 3 लगाओ, 6 हो गए, तो यहाँ 2 लगाओ। 3 moles of carbon dioxide is formed because 3 moles of carbonate. How many oxygens? 3 times 3, 9. 3 2 is 6 and 3 9. How many hydrogens? 6. So यहाँ पर 2 लगा दो। Okay, so that's the balanced chemical equation. I hope so कि आपको ये बात समझ में आई हो। जैसे हम फॉस्फोरिक एसिड का रिएक्शन करवाते हैं सोडियम कार्बोनेट से, एग्जैक्टली मैंने H3X का करवाया है, सेम कॉन्सेप्ट। ठीक है, X has 3 minus charge, sodium has 1 plus charge. If you cross multiply those charges, you will get Na3X. Okay, हाँ मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, दोबारा से सुनो। वैसे तो मैंने बता दिया एक्सप्लेनेशन में, लेकिन मैं ये कह रहा हूँ when it donates, when it ionizes, it gives you 3 hydrogen ions and X 3 negative ions. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, I hope you get the answer कि ये बना कैसे है फॉर्मूला। ओके, Anyway, sodium carbonate has 3 moles. H3X has 2 moles. When we have 0.06 moles, so moles of H3X would be 0.04 moles. So right answer obviously guys is B. Question 38. 1 bromopropane is primary alkyl halide. When it is heated with ammonia, in ethanol, CH3, CH2, CH2, NH2, and HBr is formed. So that's 1 amino propane. This one. This is your compound X, okay? And reaction takes place in the presence of ethanol and ammonia. Okay. So this is the reaction 1 की story. Reaction 2 देखो. 1 bromopropane है. It is treated with potassium cyanide and ethanol. So it is converting into CN. All right. When this CN is hydrolyzed in the presence of water under acidic medium, obviously CH3, CH2, CH2, and this CN will turn to CWH. And that's your butanoic acid. And that's the instruction examiner has given us in the question, okay? So reagents for reaction 2, KCN and ethanol, and this KCN and ethanol. So right answer is basically B, because aminopropane is formed both in A and B, and KCN and ethanol is given in B and D. So our right answer is going to be B. Okay, I hope it makes sense to you, beta. Question 39. The diagram shows part of the polymer chain. There is no ester and amide linkage, which means it is an addition polymer. Addition polymer is always formed when an alkene undergoes polymerization, which means this is going to be the monomer. And the double bond has to be here between the carbon atoms. So check कर लीजिए ये कहाँ पर लिखा हुआ है, ये लिखा हुआ है, तो यही आपका आंसर है. That's your answer. A is going to be the right answer, okay? 40, the mass spectrum of element Z is shown. What is element Z? Element Z, element Z, element Z. Okay. First thing, आप note करें, this is 35. आप note करें, this must be 37. And this is first time, this is second, this is third time. So its ratio is 3:1. That means it represents chlorine. Okay, because 35 और 37 में रेशियो हमेशा 3:1 का होता है और वो नजर भी आ रहा है आपको. आप नोट करें इसको. This is going to be 9:6:1. This is 9, this is 6, this is 1. This is 70. This is basically 72, and this is basically 74. So 70, 72, and 74. This 70 is molecular peak, 72 is M plus 2 peak, and this 74 is basically M plus 4 peak, and they exist in 9:6:1. Okay, so I believe B is going to be the right answer. That's the end of this paper, everyone. Thank you.